Let's see. Oh, goodness. I've been thinking a lot this week and having this theme come up several times in several different sessions with clients about what is the difference between companionship versus company. I love it. I love it. And so, I've talked to some people who are experiencing grief and are doing such a beautiful job taking care of themselves and living an active lifestyle. And there's a lot of social interactions that they're experiencing and talking to me about basically we're noticing and I'm giving them this feedback. You're doing such a beautiful job and these things are important and they are providing something to you. However, there's a big difference and I've described it as like a bucket, right? Your needs and the fulfillment of these needs as here's your bucket of companionship and here's your bucket of what we'll call visits, social interactions, sense of community, and company, right? And so you're doing this thing 2 times a week, this 2 times a week, this at least once a week, etc., right? And so that's beautiful and it is doing something for you and it's all kind of being poured into this bucket. And so yeah, your companionship bucket is still not feeling full, right? You are missing your companion. You are missing that companionship. There's such a difference. There's a depth, there's a richness, there's a safety, there's a home energy around the companionship, being seen, being witnessed, moving in a way that feels like there's warm space, harmony, flow, a togetherness that is not um, feeling the same thing as attachment, right? Hmm. And a couple of the people I'm thinking of where we've talked about this is the relationship they had with this person was really one of connection. It was really one of connection. It happened later on in their lives when they developed a deeper sense of self possession and wholeness that allowed them to have that availability to be inside of this harmonious relationship that carries the frequency of this companionship. And this when we're thinking about company versus companionship, this seems to tie in a bit to the last recording I made about how do you measure love, right? The It is not transactional, it is not measured because it's about presence, being witnessed, having a shared witnessing, right? Experiencing miracles or a sense of awe and seeing that this person's inside of the energy of the awe, AWE energy with you, right? We're witnessing. It's not measurable. As we come into this wholeness, into this unity within, where stillness and a slow down energy and spending a lot of time with yourself no longer feels like something to be tolerated and is just full of love and peace in itself, right? This is the kind of self possession that is needs to be walked through or arrived at in order to have a relationship with somebody where that invitation to companionship is on the table. And it's not a measurable thing. It's not about quantity. And I think this is the thing when we're inside of a lot of attachment based relationships where maybe we haven't arrived at that sense of inner harmony, inner union, and we can feel alone when we're with ourselves. We may then have a intolerance for walking through the rain that is going to illuminate the shadowy areas, the know thyself energy, the homecoming, the journey of coming home to yourself, right? When we cannot tolerate that, when we feel very alone when we're with ourselves, without company of other people, this may be an indication that we're going to be having some trouble getting outside of attachment wound based relationships where there's a lot of confusion, confusing proximity for presence. And when you know, you know. When you know, you know. There's a big difference between somebody being in the same room with you than being with you, right? I could feel like somebody is with me, they're soul tied, when I haven't seen them in 2 months, you know? Energetically, this person can be more with me than somebody who's living inside of my home who is so absent inside of proximity that I feel they are creating a rift inside of my ability to have a nice companionship with myself, right? I am at this place where I do not feel lonely when I am with myself. I do not feel lonely when I'm with myself. It is possible to feel more lonely when you're with another person once you have journeyed through that, that space for you to experience yourself, to sit with yourself, to come into a balance, to find how do you experience companionship and presence inside of your relationship with yourself, intrapersonally. We need to arrive at that capacity for fullness of companionship, love, harmony, and presence in the time we spend with ourself in order to carry that capacity and that availability and invite that energy through alignment into our life to be able to have the harmony of that type of relationship and companionship that is not transactional, that doesn't feel like a teeter-totter. We posed this question in one of my sessions the other day as this person is working through these limiting beliefs about relationships and love and conditional love versus unconditional love. And the question posed was, everywhere I look, I feel like I'm seeing relationships that are just very imbalanced in regard to there's some kind of power dynamic playing out where one person seems to be the giver, one seems to be the taker, one seems to be the person who has more financial resources in the dynamic, and so the other person then is put into this position. And when we played that out a little bit further, there's this dynamic of viewing it as a tennis court or a teeter-totter, where it's like, maybe, question mark, the answer to can it be done in a way that has more harmony? Can a relationship exist and coexist in a dynamic where there is space to breathe for both people, where there is an energy of emotional sovereignty, capacity, availability, and we both pour into each other. We both care about each other, right? Without crushing, like crushing the other person, right? Without like trying to squeeze every drop of whatever it is you feel like they have for you. Like, I need it, and then it's like, I've got nothing left to give, right? Just more balance. Can there be more balance? And the energy was coming up in this way of like, well, maybe because, if you teeter totter, this is the vision we're getting about, is it possible? And then we are seeing something so different. It's like the teeter totter as the dynamic of, is it possible, is still based in the fear, in the illusion, and in the attachment section, because tennis court energy, teeter totter energy, that type of balance is very external and measurable. And there is a middle line. There is something that is the divider. There's a division. The net in the center of the tennis court, right? The metal bar that is hinging the wood of the teeter-totter in the middle. There's a middle line. And so this is illusion of a very humanly controlled balance. I go up, you go down. You go up, I go down. My turn, your turn. My turn, your turn. So transactional. My side, your side. My side, your side on the tennis court. This is not what I'm talking about when I am leaning or being guided into the love that does exist, that is available, that can be experienced when you have journeyed through and you have arrived at this wholeness of self, right? Where you have emotional possession through this wholeness, through this energy of union within, through know thyself. I think when we're talking about a relationship where there's a harmonious, beautiful depth, comfort, and sense of, let me think of what I want to say with this piece. Emotional safety. There needs to be each individual having some sense of holding their frame and possessing their emotions and allowing for a warm space without that space feeling like a threat to the other person, so that we can ground our energy, process through what we're experiencing, possess the emotions instead of project them, right? Because, like an emotional projection of like, the minute you feel an insecurity, you're not even sitting with it long enough to fully ground and process and to know thyself deeper so that you can continue to grow instead of stagnate or cling on to this attachment where you're expecting the other person to be the keeper of your insecurities and be the settler of your emotional disturbance. That's not emotional safety. That's emotional projection, right? So we want to have enough of a sense of, hey, I see your wholeness. You see my wholeness. I can tell that when you have some emotional experiences, there's a warm space where you're possessing those emotions. And I trust when it is time, you're not going to wall me out from them. Emotional possession is also not the same thing as like a complete withdrawal and stonewalling, right? You're going to have emotional possession, and then I trust when you're in that settled energy and you have understood what that was for you and what is meant for us to talk about, and what is meant for you to, what is meant to stay with you, right? That I see your wholeness. I see you have a frame about you, an emotional possession. And now there's no need for the net in between us. There's no need for the net in the middle of this tennis court. Let's take that net out, because it's time to do a ballroom dance here. Yeah? This is the flow and the weaving and the harmony that can happen when there is a foundation of wholeness and self-possession. And here is companionship. Here is companionship. That's a beautiful thing. And that is connection. That is not attachment based energy.